Hey everybody, welcome back to Highly Unlikely with Josh and Jenaye, and we have some special guests who are on the show today that we're excited to get into a great conversation with. They are Andrew and Carmen Banta.
Hi guys.
And
Hi,
Welcome.
and they're great, and they have great smiles, so if you're watching on YouTube,
Yes.
you get to
Thank
take
you.
that in too.
Thank
One of the things we love about these guys, they're great parents. They are go-getters in life, right?
We
I
try.
think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're
our
good.
son was
We're
in
trying.
class with your daughter. We know that you're great parents. Like, she's like more responsible than me.
Yeah.
I'm like, not kidding.
Yeah, they're great.
They
and
are.
they also, I mean, they've just served the church in incredible ways and very intentional ways, but specifically with financial peace and helping people get out of debt, get a plan for their financial lives. And we just think that's really valuable because the Bible talks about money more than almost any other topic. It
Yeah.
comes up a lot in the New Testament. And there's also just a lot of people. I think I read today, like Americans are in $1 trillion worth of debt or something like that. I mean, it was just a crazy number. And so it's obviously affecting everybody's lives, no matter who's listening. And so our goal is to give some biblical principles, but also just some thoughts from each of our lives.
Some practicalities.
Yeah, of how this has become a good conversation in our marriages and
Yes.
not
Yes.
a
Yeah.
terrible
Yes.
conversation.
Yes.
or
Yeah.
a
And
fight.
even just like in season 4, focusing on relationships just around relationships. So this is about our relationship with finances or your relationship with money or how money's impacting your relationship. So we're going to go there.
Because you do have a relationship with your money.
Whether you realize it or
Yep.
not. Yeah. Yes. All right. We got to do the starter question.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh, boy.
Oh, I am
boy.
so thankful for this question.
Oh my goodness.
And Jenaye is going to go first, so you guys have time to
Okay,
think.
good.
I can be your buffer, yeah.
Thank you.
What is one interesting thing about yourself that nobody really knows?
Oh, I feel like we've said this one before.
Well, we do this
You
with our
have.
staff team a lot. Have
Okay,
we
we
already done
do.
this question?
You have done the question on the podcast. I've
See?
heard it.
Okay.
Is that you just
another
trying to get a
one.
new question?
They listen.
I mean, it's fine.
They
But
listen.
you have done it.
I probably would
double
use
up.
the same. Well, I'm like, I know there's a lot of repeats. Oh, no.
Now you
Throwing
know.
them behind the couch.
What's your secret talent?
Oh, man.
Is that worse?
I think we've done this one before, but
Have we?
it's fine.
Yeah,
I
you
think
have.
you've put them back
What
in
is
sometimes,
happening?
babe. You pull from the middle and then you go.
I'll take that one. That's easy. I can almost
Right.
juggle.
All right, this is going to be the whole podcast. Okay, I mean, we haven't done this one before, but what's your favorite color?
Oh,
Oh, pigeon. It's an off color of this behind us.
pigeon?
Pigeon. It's a Pharaoh and Ball, which is a very hoity-toity paint. You need to not put them back in there.
whatever.
We just
we'll
created
figure
our
it
own
out.
problem. It's funny. Pigeon's kind of, it's kind of like this and a little bit lighter, but it's the perfect color. It's kind of like green in some settings, but kind of bluish gray if you put different things around it. Yeah. Avery knows my favorite color is
That's
pigeon.
very specific.
That's
Yeah.
impressive.
Big
It
kitchen
came
cabinet
from-
color.
Okay.
It came from
Okay.
this girl on Instagram called The Blooming Nest. She was one of my favorite follows, and does like home stuff and
love
makes
it.
it all cute. But pigeon is her favorite color and
Okay.
became mine.
Is that one of your little
Pigeon.
secret kind of personal things is like decoration? And is that where you kind
I'm
of
actually
nerd
suck
out?
at it. Oh, I suck
but-
at it. I'm so bad at it. But yes, I love to look at it and be like, but it's funny that we're talking about money because I would blow money on that stuff. Like if we didn't have a budget, like it'd be
I will
like,
hire you because I like the pictures.
Exactly.
But I can't do that.
yeah, I'd be like, do
Yep.
this.
Yep.
And I will spend a lot of money doing it. So our house is white with pictures and plants. That's what it is. Pictures of our family and plants. That's it.
Yeah.
Very
We got
simple.
plants. We
One
got
pigeon wall.
One pigeon wall.
So
That's awesome.
not of pigeons, but of the color pigeon.
I'm
Okay,
gonna
how about
look it
you
up.
guys?
oh.
He doesn't do favorites. That's what he's going to tell you.
Oh, wow,
Okay,
you live in
this
the
is
middle.
interesting.
I don't do
wanna,
favorites
put the
in
counselor
general.
hat on.
It's
And
so
why?
lame.
Where does this derive from?
I
He just
don't do
can't
favorites.
pick.
Ah,
Could be favorite ice cream favorite. I
He's
just
just
don't do
like, I don't
favorites.
care.
And so like the kids were like, what's your favorite number? Like it was always such a silly question to me. Like it's a number.
pick a
I don't
color.
care. But favorite color, favorite number, all
Play
those
the
kid
game.
questions like blue, green, orange.
yeah,
I
you're
don't know,
right.
because of what I'm
Sure.
feeling.
There we go.
I don't know. Oh.
Blue has always been my favorite color.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, the stereotypes and whatever, but I've always loved blue.
Yeah.
And multiple shades of blue, I would say.
That's
But
on
baby blue was
Yes.
like,
That was mine as a
that was
kid.
my jam.
Like the sky.
forever.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is
You don't
funny.
have one, do you?
Not really.
Oh,
Not just-
come
But are you
on.
just like a chill dude then? Like, if
Yes.
you just are kind of like,
I am
it's
not.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Life
perfect
is good.
pairing. You even
Life
each other
is,
out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Life is
Yes, we
good.
do.
So
Man.
Josh,
I'm
Somebody
simple.
is analyzing your spot in your birth order that you mentioned,
we're
earlier
both
in the
the
podcast.
baby though.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Like, does he not have a favorite color because he was not?
Because
the
he's not
oldest?
allowed to have a favorite
Right,
color.
right. He was never allowed.
All right, Josh. What's
My
yours?
favorite color has always been blue, actually. But I
Really?
actually am.
You wear a
and
lot
I
of
think-
green.
I was just gonna say, in
I
green,
think
you're looking
your
sharp and green.
spouse, like, has an impact on you because now like pigeon kind of
Pigeon.
grows on me. I like mint.
Man.
Yeah.
Like,
What a great influence I am.
so I think I'm probably
Nailed it.
moving away from blue more towards green. But Jenaye tells me sometimes when it comes to shoes that I'm colorblind, so maybe I just can't tell the difference.
We always argue what's gray or brown. Like, he'll be like, those are gray shoes. I'm like, those are brown. So, yeah, we can't. Yeah, sometimes.
so there might be something off.
I was like, your
But you can
cones and
see
your
pigeon.
rods
You
and
gotta
your
have
eye.
one fault. You just nail everything else. So
Just
you gotta have one fault,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that what's interesting though? Like, if blue, that could be true, that like the blue of his shirt looks different to you than me, but we both know it's blue.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's so interesting. But
Yeah.
There's a
thought
doctor
about it,
coming
thought
out.
about it
Yeah.
in school,
Deep.
but I don't
That's
know.
deep.
Okay, finances, money. There we go.
Woohoo! Everybody loves it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what everybody heard, right? Money, yes.
Yes.
Yay.
So, I mean, why we're passionate about this, and we've kind of alluded to this, but that we had a big journey of paying off debt and becoming debt free was going to be the solution for a peaceful marriage and peaceful life for us. We believe is biblical. Not everyone agrees with that, but and we found it to be true. It's funny when you actually do what the Bible says, and then you're like, oh wow, it does bring a peace. Oh, wow. And that just was in what, 2021 or early 2020 that we finally paid off our debt. It was like a significant mountain. And so I know like you guys were huge encouragements. Like the people who encouraged us through it were like, you just loved those people because you sometimes found people that were like, you're idiots.
You're
to pay
crazy.
You're
Yeah.
crazy to
Yeah.
pay cash for
good debt.
cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, why would you ever? Yeah. So you guys were just a voice of encouragement and we just appreciated that so much. But maybe, I know you said your story is different than ours, but what just maybe started you guys in being passionate about being diligent with your money and your finances? Because you paid off a house,
Yep.
right?
One house,
One
one to go.
Yes. But what kind of like, what was it for you guys? When did it start? What kind of kick started it?
And we got real lucky that I guess early on in marriage, her sister had gone through it. So, and I don't know.
They went through it when they were engaged.
They went through Financial Peace
Financial Peace University when they were engaged. Yep.
And so then they're like, hey, you guys should take this. All right. We're young and know it all, but you know what? We'll try this guy. We'll try this guy's,
Were you
see what he has
married
to
or
say.
not married?
Yes.
We were.
Married.
We were freshly married. And just going through the class. Thankfully, we're very blessed that we had good, pretty darn good role models for parents
Yeah.
as far as finances. So
Absolutely.
growing up, we had stability in finances. We, where I think that's one of those big pieces that some folks don't always have a healthy example of.
Right,
And
100%.
so, and I don't know why we decided to do it. I guess probably because if it was offered at church, it's the right thing to do.
Right.
And
Yeah.
as both of us were goody two shoes growing up, but then so a lot of these things, it's just one of the right thing to do.
Right,
You kind
right.
of take it and you look at it, you're like, well, I guess this kind of makes sense. This makes sense. And you kind of go through it. And then the Landblums, we're like, hey, would you help teach? And I guess that kind of fast forwarding a little bit, but that's what got us into round 2. Because it was, if we're going to teach it,
You got to do it.
probably need another round of this.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's when I think it helped click a lot. And that's why I love that, I guess not to dig too much in the FPU, but the lifetime membership at that point, we're going again, because I feel the second time around, maybe I'm just a slow learner, but it helped,
It
and
clicks, yeah.
and just a lot of these big lessons are pretty heavy. And so, I guess I would credit our parents, honestly, for a pretty good start, and then,
Absolutely. I think, we had not vastly different views of money when we got married, but Andrew very much is more of a free spirit, if you will, and they go into that in the class as well. But I'm a super practical person, and so when we went through the class, the relating with money conversation was just massive for us.
that was a
Yeah.
light
And
bulb.
it's not that we were just so vastly different, but when it came to like money I didn't understand. I'm like, why can you not just hold on to some of that and save it? And,
Oh, yeah.
and he's
Josh
like,
was
why
wondering
can't
the
you
same thing about me.
spend some money, sis? And I'm like, because you're supposed to save it. And so I think that's what really got me passionate about this topic in particular is not necessarily like the money piece itself, but the relationship around it.
Right.
And understanding yourself and understanding if you're married, your significant other. And like, we just kind of looked at each other and we're like, oh, we're not broken. We're just different.
Yeah.
You're not broken because you just want to spend all the time. I'm not broken because I'm a big saver. We're just different. And so that's really what clicked for me the most, I think, with finances. And then, like Andrew said, just wanting to have that message go further.
Yeah.
And wanting to be a part of helping people understand that for themselves.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
What
think
was
the
the
healthy.
most sacrificial thing you guys did when it came to like finances or like maybe that people would say you guys are crazy?
I'm going to turn this question on you, Ray.
Oh, yeah. You can probably think of a lot of things.
There are a lot of things.
I mean, I will say, so like our money journey, I'll just be super
Yeah.
honest. I came out of college with savings. Our parents had actually paid for our college.
When
so
you say
that's
our, is it both of you or
Both.
just your family?
both families.
Wow.
Yeah, we were both
And
super
so
blessed.
that is a huge
huge.
blessing that we had. And we said, we do not ever want to take that for granted because that
Right.
is massive. And so we said, okay, you've been given this gift,
Yeah.
right? So what do you do with it? And so when we got married, we both had some savings. Andrew had more than me, shocking. Because when I got my big girl job, I got my big girl car.
Yeah.
This was pre-Ramsey, right?
Yeah.
And so it was brand new.
Right. Isn't that funny?
And so, but paid it off, I think even before we were married. And he had a truck. And that was it for consumer debt. But we got married and 30 days later bought a house. Don't recommend,
Yeah.
but it's what we did.
Right.
And then we went through the class a year after that. And so we did not have like a mountain
Yeah.
to climb. And so I'm just sharing that piece of our story to
But you guys
preface
paid off that house.
the answer
That's a
to the
mountain.
question. So
Let's just say that.
that
sorry.
is true. That is
Well,
true.
let's not act like
So,
we didn't suffer.
when it came to the house, now I'm going to let him answer the question
Yeah.
because he sees sacrifice a little bit differently. I don't think we suffered.
That's
He
so
does.
funny.
So what did we suffer through, babe?
Everything. I mean, cold nights, no heat.
Oh,
no,
come on.
teasing. No, but Carmen was very, very passionate about that part. And I was like, man, but kind of setting out the roadmap of what would life look like if we got rid of all this,
Right.
and what would life look like if we were more intentional? And so we did. We lived on cash. Fun money was tight. And understanding, if you want to get there, there's going to be sacrifices, and
Right.
so just decisions. And so a lot of that was making that personal decision for us. Hey, this is something that we value. This is something we want to attack in this way. And so that's, I guess, one of the big things I want for other couples to hear is getting to your why, getting to what are your bigger goals, what are those longer term. And I'm not the long-term guy. I like, I'm what's going on this week? What's going on today? What's going on this afternoon? I'm not the long-term planner, but truly when we sat back and talked about what do we want our future to look like? Do we want to, retire young or have the freedom to, I guess, just that freedom when we're younger and more able-bodied to do whatever God has in store for us. So whether that's, travel, whether that's who knows what, we don't know what the future holds. But
So
I knew we wanted to set ourselves up to be in a good place. And again, based on, biblical truths. I mean, we needed to lock down and I don't know, thankfully Carmen's not a stuff person either.
I'm not a
so that helped. I mean, if you're the one sitting here trying to spend all the money, it's like, could you?
So that's what I was just going to say is,
So I don't feel so bad, but-
maybe dying to consumerism would be the sacrifice, I would say. Is we're not going to have the biggest, nicest, best, whatever. I think that that was it for us. But what was it for you?
Well, we had a moment, and just kind of building on what you said, where we were driving in a really nice neighborhood in Bismarck, and there's like the biggest SUVs, the biggest houses on the water, like everything,
Gorgeous.
know?
Yeah.
And we were driving through, and I just said to Jenaye, and I don't mean this to be like to stereotype anybody, because there's some people that have a great job and they can live that way and pay for it. And I said, how do all these people own all these things? And we kind of had this moment of like, well, a lot of them actually don't. Like they're actually slave to like a monthly payment,
or
just
it stresses them out.
And we kind of had to make a decision of like, okay, what do we value more? Like having the nicest things, which I know is such a North Dakota thing of like making it look like you have it all together.
Yes.
Like that's a real thing here.
Yes.
Yeah.
But not actually having it and having this be crumbling on the inside because you're stressed about the next payment or you're fighting about money in marriage and like all these things. And so I think there's that decision point of like, how do I want to live? And how do I want this to be talked about in my home? So I think
too, it's like decide how you want to feel, because if you're like, you might decide, I feel like I've talked to people that are like, I'm comfortable with this amount of debt. I don't feel conflicted. It doesn't stress me out. And it's like, okay, like, and you have to resolve that. Like, I can't convince you, but for us, it was like, if I brought like a Target bag home, he's looking through it like, what did you get? And it was like, all right, we need to get rid of this debt because it's making us like, like you're not a team, you're against each other. So I think, the craziest thing, we were, it was just very like, like dying to your wants. Cause I always want to go out to eat and I always want to go do the fun thing and experiences and all this stuff. But I grew up that way. We did all the fun, all-inclusive resorts and we did. And my parents were able to, but that's just the level of fun I grew up with. And so then that was really hard to be like, oh, I want to give this to my kids and stuff. But just finding greater purpose. And the nice thing is we don't really have hobbies. So like there's no hunting, golfing, all that stuff that really does eat up. Like, and so it's like, I don't know.
I think probably the craziest thing we did to pay off debt is that we just really chose to live in a way that was kind of offensive to people.
Yeah.
How so?
In like how we chose not to spend.
Right.
In like, okay, we got these gifts. We're going to keep them for a year. Then we're going to sell them, or like, or
our kids knew if you don't use a toy, mommy sells it at Later Gator, local consignment sale. And I sold with them. We donated plasma. We only went out to eat when we had a gift card.
We said no to some things.
I call it my ghetto boutique out of our basement. I stayed home with Avery. And then I'd work Friday, Saturdays at the hospital when Josh was home. And so just our schedule did not cater to like family unit oneness, I would say. But now we get to live in it. Now we always have Friday, Saturdays together, or when the kids aren't in school.
That's huge.
So I think too, that it was a crazy season, but I would sell clothes out of my ghetto boutique in my basement at night when the kids were sleeping so we didn't have to pay for childcare. And just all those, like it was hustling. Like he was like, you're hustling, and every bit of cash. I'll never forget, Avery found a dime in the couch. And I would watch, I stayed at home, so I'd watch Dave Ramsey's live shows and I'd just weep. Because I was like, I need inspiration. I want to go to Starbucks. I deserve it, Joy House wasn't a thing then. It would have been Joy House now. But and he found like a nickel or dime and he was like, Mom, I found money for our debt. And he was like 2.
Oh my
And I was like,
goodness.
oh, okay. And when I'd turn on Dave Ramsey, he'd say, no Graham Rosie. No Graham Rosie. That's what he called them.
But I think it's so countercultural. And counterintuitive that we needed like Dave Ramsey playing on the YouTube channel while we're at home because you
don't see it.
No, you need people who are saying this is the right. You're not gonna regret this.
Not gonna regret it.
People like you guys who are just supportive and
And Carmen, listen to the show all the time, and so it's hilarious because I would hear this stinking saxophone in the background. It just I'm so sick.
He has like PTSD from the saxophone.
That is the one sound if I could never hear it again. Or it's like,
so now I skip it. I skip the intro anytime I play
Or even like the Dave Ramsey laugh, like when you really when you really laugh.
Yes,
but like you guys, as far as when we're intent on reaching our goal and we're working together, we're in unity on this is what we're going to do together. But going out to eat was special.
Still is.
And so that's where like date night, just even going to coffee was special, and it's crazy, because Starbucks, like $7 for a drink. I mean, it was just
you don't take it for granted.
At that stage of life, you just, perspective was so much different, and it's fun now to, as you progress through when, all right, grabbing a couple coffees, like even for us, it's like, it's a splurge thing, but when you make it special and date night, I guess, as far as, we don't go out to eat a lot, and so those quote unquote sacrifices, to some people, but the norms, like you talked about in the vehicles and some of those things were just.
It seemed like a sacrifice at the time. And I think what would have been really difficult for me, what you guys are talking about, is working those opposite schedules.
Yeah.
And that's something we actually worked through as a couple too, because, we started this program and then we got pregnant with Porter. And so we had our first baby and then he decides, I'm going to start a business.
On the side business.
Side business.
Side
business. And so I'm home with baby and he gets home from work and goes to his side gig. And I was like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
I want you here.
Yeah.
And that was a big conversation for us because he is thinking in his head, I need to provide more. I need to do this. We have these goals. And he's thinking that's what's going to make me happy.
Right.
I'm going to fix it.
I'm going to fix it. And I'm like.
Guilty. Just takes
and
money,
I'm like,
right?
No, but to understand that fixing it was coming home.
Right.
Fixing it was being with us.
Yeah.
And truly reconciling that, because the world is telling him you have to do all these great things and be all these great things. And meanwhile,
earn all this money.
And earn all this money.
But that's not what my wife wanted.
Yeah.
And that's not what your kids need. And that's not what the priority should be. And so it's, those views of money extend even to, ego to a certain extent.
Oh, for sure.
There was a book I read, and one of the stats in there was, and this is when it clicked for me, that I think it's basically 9 out of 10 women would rather, 9 out of 10 women would rather just be getting by, but have their spouse home more than have the extra income and have them be gone.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, again, what story I was telling myself that, if only I can be more, earn more, all these.
Well, you were telling yourself the American narrative, which is like, that's just what it is.
And, and reading that book, and then I said, ask Carmen, I go, this can't be true, is it? 9 out of 10 women would rather have.
Right, exactly.
And it was.
It's true.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but again, it added to that unity of Andrew, be present, you're enough. And I think that's a whole different basket, whole different podcast.
Yes, 100%.
Why have you guys chosen to live differently financially? Like, why row against the cultural wind? Why, save now so you can live differently later? Like, what is
freedom,
what's the
peace
why?
of mind? I mean, how much better do you guys sleep at night? And even the 3 to 6 month emergency fund, it's wild how the first $1,000, that's a daunting task. And then in 3 to 6 months, and when you finally have to use it, we went through a situation, where all of a sudden we had to use that emergency fund. And it was kind of one of those, that was the moment, because I was slow to get on the train. Honestly, was, what, I'll do this. On paper, it seems right. It makes sense, but I still don't know if I'm really in,
Right.
And then when we had to write a very large check
to buy a vehicle,
to replace a vehicle that had gotten totaled, it was just.
We had insurance, but the insurance hadn't come through yet.
Yeah.
And just Mama needed a car.
So and with 2 kids, and it was just writing it together again to us, a huge check
at the time.
It just being prepared for that moment.
Yeah. You're like,
by being
this is huge,
the
but
diligence
it's not
paid
huge.
off.
It's huge.
Yes. The diligence paid off.
And I think being able to focus on the things that truly matter.
Right.
The things that and when I do one-on-one coaching with people for finances, they're so tunnel vision because this is the main stressor that they have. And I'm like, there's so much outside of this.
Yeah.
But this is very real. And this is definitely a need. But to be able to move past that, you can move past yourself. You can move past what you need and what you desire and what you want. And that's like when we pay off our house, like I told Andrew, I'm like, I'm so excited to have, for me, and he knows this, the line item in the budget that is just giving.
Yeah.
And whatever I want to do with giving. And we've had a couple of those experiences, but not to the level I would want. Because we're being disciplined.
And how old are you guys for those that are just listening and can't see you?
24.
Our kids usually answer that question.
Yeah.
Are we 34?
34.
We're 34.
I always say, we're going to do the math now.
Math is hard.
So I think too, even just hearing like they're not in their 50s, like they're 34,
Right.
Yeah.
diligent at a young age. So as you have taught the FPU courses, and it could be outside of FPU, but like, what have you seen change in people as they come to realize this, or they maybe start that debt snowball and get momentum?
Oh man, that's so fun.
Yeah.
You go first.
Oh boy. I think, I didn't let you go on this one. You're excited. Roll.
So, I'm excited because we also, outside of FPU, do one-on-one coaching. And so we've coached singles, we've coached couples with their finances. Yeah. And I think what has been so rewarding for me is sometimes for the first time in somebody's life, they can look at a budget and they can feel in control.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, this doesn't control me.
Yeah.
This does. I am in charge, and with God's help, I'm telling this what to do.
Yeah. Right.
I'm doing it. It's not controlling me.
Happening to me.
It's not happening to me. And like when that happens, I mean, I've had people just break down in tears,
Right.
just, hugging me. And I think the other thing is when we get to work with couples and to see that unity.
Yeah.
And when it finally clicks, like we're not against each other. It's the two of us against this thing.
Yeah.
It's the two of us against whatever that is. And if we're in agreement on how to tackle that, we can be in agreement on how to tackle almost anything.
Right.
And so like that has been so fun for me. I mean, you can lead, we've led a dozen plus classes and you do like the before and after snapshots, and those are great, but it's the individuals and the life change that you get to experience. And sometimes it's years down the road. Do you want to tell the restaurant story?
That's what I was thinking of too.
Do it.
We were at dinner once, and it was just one of our date nights, and all of a sudden this guy comes walking up and you go, oh, hey. He goes, you guys, kind of like you talked about, I have to share this with somebody because nobody else gets it. Nobody else is weird like you guys, but I'm debt free.
Yeah.
And he was probably late 20s, single guy that he had just, again, day by day by day, and taking it one step at a time, just working the plan, and
it's so rewarding.
it's just that, that emotional, just, you can see the pride,
and
that
the
excitement.
chains come off of people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The system is like so rigged against people, and I don't think we always realize it. Like, hey, get the nicest thing, like I remember going into a furniture store. I tell this story all the time, and we had done financial peace and we were looking at a couch and the lady goes,
I think, was it our last purchase?
it might've been.
Yeah.
And
Where we
she's-
finally, like a year ago.
You get to buy the nice
right around
couch now.
2020, it was like, we're actually buying nice furniture.
Yes.
Like no more free couches.
Yeah.
She goes, and you can finance that. And I remember not trying to sound like a jerk, but it just came out of my mouth. I said, we don't finance couches. Like it just,
We don't
I almost
finance
had this
furniture.
reaction of
Awesome.
like, oh, we don't
No.
finance furniture. Like that's not something, because we had learned and we had fought debt so hard. Like somebody told us our debt, which was 6 figures when we got married, was good debt.
Because
And-
it got me a doctorate degree, which
Yeah.
actually in North Dakota, my doctorate degree pays crap compared to other states. Where I was like,
But-
this isn't fair. You promised me so much. Sorry.
But I'm like, I don't care if it's good debt. It's $700 a month that I have to think about. That's a lot of money.
a lot.
And I can't,
That
like
change-
for me as a person, I can't sleep at night, carrying that. But I just think about like, the system tells you buy what you want, finance it, make the monthly payment. And then on the other hand, but if you don't,
yeah.
put it on a credit card. And if you don't make that payment, the interest rate is absurd. And it just, and then all of a sudden you find yourself like, oh, thought I was moving ahead in life, and now I feel more and more and more behind, and like I'm drowning. And that's where the chains come off people when they get out from under that.
Well, you think of scripture, it's, the borrower's slave to the lender.
Yep.
And so do slaves have any authority? We were teaching our MLC students on this, and I'd said, like, you don't have the authority to stand on a platform in ministry and teach about tithing or giving if you carry this. And someone was like, where is that in the Bible? And I was like, okay, well, if you're a slave to the lender, do slaves have authority? And she's like, no.
Nope.
I said, so you don't. And
That's
especially,
powerful.
and I'm like, if you're going to stand before the Lord, that was it for us. Like, if you're going to lead a congregation or anyone, a team, anyone in generosity or submitting when we talk about tithe with the church, I've started saying it's not about your money, it's about your heart. God never wanted your money. He wants your heart. And like, it's not, if we get caught up in it, it's about my money. It's actually not. You're missing the whole point.
Yeah.
But
can I just restate what you said? Because
Sorry.
I think what you said was you can't stand on a stage if you carry debt.
Well, okay.
But I think what we were really teaching was like, you have to have integrity in what you're asking somebody else to do.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
In like, don't ask them to give their tithe or legacy makers if you're not giving as well.
Well, and if you have I'm sorry, I always say butt ton of debt. And you're standing there expecting others to be generous when you've been bogged down by something that enables you or disables you from being generous. You don't carry an authority in that, is what I was teaching. Your house has
to be in order.
Yeah, your house has to be in order. And so even we've had people in ministry where it's like, hey, you're going to, work an extra job. You're going to hustle and you're going to get out of this. And then you're going to walk in the freedom and authority in ministry that you were meant to walk in.
Yeah.
And we get things happen. And we've had people get out of debt and then come back almost like in shame because they walked through medical stuff and had to like make payments. And it's like, nope, that was what happened. And you're going to move forward and you know how to get out of it.
Absolutely.
And it's like not too far. So sorry, I wasn't saying like you couldn't, but
No,
just
I'm just saying to people who are listening who maybe have disagreements on debt or on like what kind of debt you carry. And like we carry a mortgage on our home right now. And we're not necessarily like, I know FPU and Dave Ramsey is like, here's the line, here's what you should do.
Oh my gosh, tell them the Dave Ramsey
Okay, just wait, let me finish my thought
Josh.
before I lose it. I will.
Ooh, goody.
But what I want to say is the blessing of God is attached to obedience to Scripture.
Yes.
Yep.
And so you have to look at what Scripture says about your money, that there is a possibility that money can become your master and you can't serve both God and money. And it says that if you're borrowing, especially in a way that, well, you're slave to the lender. And so the more you borrow, the more you're going to feel enslaved to that payment or to that thing. And so I just want to like bring that to people's attention. Our heart is not to be legalistic. Here's what you can do. Here's what you can't do. Our heart is, there's a blessing of God that occurs when you're obedient to Scripture.
Absolutely.
That you don't experience outside of obedience to Scripture. And we're lobbying you towards.
And by the way,
obedience.
everything in FPU is not necessarily in the Bible.
Right.
It doesn't say thou shalt pay for thy children's college.
Right.
It doesn't say that. You're talking about
In the King James or the New Living.
or the New Living. But you know, like there's just it's the heart behind things, right?
Yes.
Like it's
100%.
And to me, that's why a tithe is also a big topic of I mean, we can go there, but like that's a big thing. I had tithed since I was 14 years old and had my first job.
Right.
He was more of like the
Tithe when it's
give
convenient.
when I want
I'll
to.
save some. My buddy's got a cool project. Donate a bigger chunk then because I got to make up for that one.
But it was understanding like the actual mandate behind the tithe and us getting on the same page with that. And I mean, truly, that's huge for your relationship with money. But to your point, Josh, it's the heart. It's the heartbeat of Scripture and what does God want us to do? And not to be legalistic about it, but just,
because He's a loving Father.
Obedience.
And He wants
what
what's
is
best
good
for
us.
Yes.
Money is attached to our discipleship. You can't separate what you do with money from your own discipleship. Because even what you just talked about is, what do I want to do with the money I have? Or what do I want to do with the money God's given me? That's a certain level of spiritual maturity.
Yep.
But the tithe really is, what does God want me to do with what God has given me?
Yes.
And that's the obedience to Scripture.
And by the
part.
way, it's all of it. Because we don't really own any of it.
Right. And we're all on a
But
journey,
we are
though.
entrusted with it.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, I even just think as a church, we have debt from our building campaign. And it's like, And it is such a hard thing too, where there's a lot of opportunities. Like there's like 3 multi-million-dollar decisions right now. And it's like, we have other friends, you know, in ministry that's like, you could do it all, you know? And it's like, and it's hard because I am the natural spender. I'm like, let's do it all. And he's like, no, we need to operate in wisdom and we need to pay this off before we do that. And it's like, and even as you lead things and as you lead a church, it's just hard. It's hard. But we do have a role model that it pays for all their buildings in cash.
Yeah.
And he, I feel like, has a gift of like helping people realize they have a gift of giving for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Amazing.
So we were in Nashville.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
And we decided to drive and stop at Ramsey headquarters.
Because you needed to get us a mug. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
Yep.
Yes.
And and we watched Dave record his show, got a picture with him.
I was far more passionate about it than you at this point, right?
Yeah.
Like,
We weren't out of debt yet.
We weren't. We were there in a business, he went to preach.
Okay.
And so we drove by on our way to the church and I was like, it's Ramsey Solutions. Oh my gosh. We're like, headquarters. I was fangirling a little bit.
But I think you can have mentors in person and you can have mentors from afar. And Dave mentored us out of 6 figures of debt. And
From
we
afar.
are forever grateful
Right.
for his voice in that. Yeah. And so we showed up, we watched the show, and then there was books, like a little gift shop and a coffee shop. And I wanted to buy this book. And on my church budget, I have money to pay for resources that I'm either going to teach out of or learn from. And so I have a church credit card to pay for ministry expenses. And so I walked up to the cash register.
It was declined.
Well, okay. So, and if you know Ramsey, it is no credit cards. Like we don't do credit at all, you know? And in my mind, I was like, this is the business expense that goes on the church credit card, you know? And so I walked up to the counter and gave the lady the book and handed her my credit card.
And she goes, debit or cash? And he goes, actually, here's my credit card.
In Ramsey Solutions.
I forgot where I was.
I died. I was standing there just looking at him like,
so
that's
she's like,
amazing.
So no, and so she's like, debit or cash? And I was like, well, and then I insisted. I was like, well, no, it's a work
card.
expense,
Yeah.
you know, on my work card. And she goes, we take debit or cash. And then it clicked in my mind, I'm at Ramsey.
Here I am.
And the alarm goes off.
Here I am.
You're an idiot. You're an idiot. You know?
you should have just been like, I've never heard of this place. I am. Oh my gosh. His
so
face
funny.
turned so red and we were like, let's just go. Let's go.
Just hit me, you know. But
That's hilarious.
very
so
funny.
that's me embarrassing myself terribly.
It was very funny.
At Ramsey
That
Solutions.
is awesome.
Yeah. But yeah. So let's say someone's listening right now. Where should they start? Like single, student, married.
Let's
maybe
just
they're
take
in
the
their
average
70s.
person. Like most
Average
people are living
person.
paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
A lot of people have maybe student loan debt or a house or a car payment. I think that's pretty average, right?
Yep.
So maybe it's somebody like that. And where do they go from here? That's your question.
Like kind of what's the first step? Where should they start? And let's just say they can't go to FB. Let's just say that. You know, let's just pretend.
That's fair. Where should they start, Andrew?
So first thing out.
I teach this stuff a lot.
She'll crush it, so I'll wing it. You know, is put it on paper. That would be my first thing. Figure out what you owe. Write it down. I think that's one of those simple things. It seems, it's too easy. But when you write everything down, it carries
real.
some weight.
It's like write everything you owe down.
All your payments, all
your
work with,
payments.
what do you have coming in? And just a very basic budget. What do you have coming in? But what am I paying for? Or actually a lot of times what we'll tell people is, nowadays look at last month's online checking statement. You're like, because everybody has online now. Look at last month, because that's what most people go, I don't know how to do this. Well, let's look at last month and see where your money went.
Yeah.
And that's one of those just phenomenal tools to look, where did this go?
Or I spent 15% of my income on this. Or
and
Yeah.
I guess I'll
No, write it down is where you start. I mean that, and not only like Andrew said, here's what I'm spending, but here's like he also said what I'm spending it on. And a lot of people know I have debt. A lot of people don't know how much.
There's also studies behind people having like a bunch of subscriptions that they don't realize.
Oh, that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, you could get like $150 back or something if you cancel all these subscriptions.
Right.
Yeah. Like just looking at it all.
Yes.
And the amount, I think that you realize the amount of money being spent on fast food or coffee.
Yeah. That's usually
some of those quick, quick, easy ones, that you can kind of get under control, if you will, and I think that's one of the biggest things is once you understand, and the hardest part to encourage somebody to do is getting people to commit to it.
Yeah.
I think that's been
commit to a budget,
changing their process. Life. Commit to get and
what's
a lot
why?
of that is getting to that deeper why.
Yeah.
And I would spend some time in prayer, spend some quiet time and figure out what do you want your future to look like? Because once you can get a bigger why, the money just seems a lot easier.
Yeah.
And I think that's why even sitting here is like, oh, what'd you do? What'd you do? Oh, nothing.
Yeah.
Well, no, for 10, 11 years, our marriage, we've been very diligent, helps to marry a nerd. But, but when you have that bigger why, and some of us are visual, some of us, are slower to get on board, guilty, and so we've got a 4-foot thermometer on the wall. It sounds
Again,
I don't know if I've told
house.
if I've told you guys about that, but because paying off stuff digitally, I don't feel it. When you're paying, you don't feel it. And so I've got a giant looks like a fundraising thermometer on the wall in our basement. So when we knock off a little more, I get to color.
Yep.
Might be cheesy, but it's what works for us. And it lets you feel. And I guess that'd be the other thing is what are actionable steps is
Feel
switch
your
to
money.
cash.
Yeah. So studies show
So
you
money,
do spend less when you use cash versus swiping a card. You'll just naturally spend less, right?
Yeah. If you give yourself, your $40 of fun money or whatever, whatever you allow in your budget, and wherever you're at in that stage, boy, the coffee looks a lot less appealing when you're on your last 20, and there's 10 days left in the month, well, you know what? I might want to go, with some girlfriends this weekend. It just, you weigh your options a lot differently when you're looking at the wallet and it's looking a little lighter than you want it to.
Yeah, definitely. Feel your money and budget. So obviously figure out what you owe.
Yeah.
And then the budget is a big one. And the budget, I think, is so daunting for a lot of people because they don't know what that is. Nobody's done, so many people operate with, they open their phone and they look at their checking account and they're like, that's how much I have.
Yes. Right.
Guilty.
And then I'm like, no, it's not, friend. You have a lot of stuff that's probably coming out of there.
Yeah.
And so understanding, I just had a conversation with somebody and it was an accountability conversation. It was like, so I really want to do this. And I have this much in my checking account. I said, it's not what's in your checking account. What does your budget tell you?
Yes. Yeah.
What does your budget tell you that you have for that specific desire? And so, putting it in writing on a budget, and that can look different for everybody.
Yeah.
Like we use every dollar.
Well,
now.
there's so many apps now that link right up to your bank account.
I still am old school and I use an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah. I do Excel spreadsheet gives me anxiety. All those squares.
See? We love every
literally
dollar. Yeah.
We do.
Yeah.
Every dollar's the app through, Ramsey Solutions that we use.
Yep.
But we did paper for a while. I am a paper girl. And like you said, the thermometer, like for me, it was all on like Google Docs. I love Google Docs with my whole heart. And so we have and it's kind of like this track record now of like our journey.
Yeah.
Because it was like our monthly meetings and then it would be like just crazy stuff. Like what can we sell was a category. Like what can we do for extra income? But then I did like a picture of like the months of the year. So like it's like a picture of the calendar, just the months of the year. And then in big red numbers, I'd put what extra we paid towards debt. And that was the visual for me.
That visual.
You could see the big red number after that month. And then you can tell your seasons, when can we pay more somehow and when can we, not. That was and so I think find what motivates you. I would just sit, at that point, we only had one kid. And I was a night owl, so I'd be up to like 1 a.m. and all I would do is I would retake FPU online, or I would all I'd do is watch debt-free screams and just cry. Because other people have done this. And that verse, where is it? no discipline.
No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but it reaps a harvest of righteousness.
For those. And it's like, so strengthen your weak knees, like things like that. That was above our goals, where it's like, this awesome. Is hard. Like, this is not going to be enjoyable, but persevere. And if we're really honest, we paid off our debt and we've kind of not floundered, but it was like, paid off our debt, did our 3 to 6 months. And we've kind of like, I've been like,
deep
okay.
breath. Yes.
And then now in the past couple months, we're like, we got to reset. Like, and I said, I need a vision, Josh. I don't know where we're going. I know we have this we want to remodel this, or we want to do this, but where are we going? Because then I can get really diligent. And so that's been like on our list of like,
you need a why.
You do.
You need a why.
Biblical, like without vision, the people perish.
So let me say 2 things. One is our greatest crisis when we got married was our debt. And I think one of the most powerful things that can happen in a marriage is people move away from family and have to rely on each other, or you have a big crisis you have to face together, and it can actually strengthen what feels broken right now.
Absolutely.
And for us, goal.
That shared goal was one of the most fortifying pieces of our marriage from early on, where we were working together. We were learning how to communicate through that crisis.
Yes.
And the second thing I want to say, and just being a little pastoral for a moment, is I know there's a lot of people who get into marriage and like have their finances separate, or like, we have our finances, but I have my account over here that I spend whatever I want on, or, or I have my hidden money that I, do whatever with. And when you get married, the biblical example, the model is Christ and the church, and it's a covenant relationship.
His hands are together for those you listening.
Yeah, sorry.
Nice hand demonstration.
But it is bringing your whole self into that relationship. And so when it's communication, how you talk to each other, it's bringing your whole self, your last 10% into that conversation. In how you fight, it's not abandoning each other in a fight. It's not it's bringing your whole self into that conflict, revealing who you are. With sex, this is why we talk about not having sex before you're married, because when you have sex before you're married, you're bringing a part of yourself, just your physical self, without any of the rest of yourself into that relationship. And so after you're married, it is bringing your whole self, even physically. And every time there's intimacy, it's like a remarriage. Like I've laid my whole self before you in every other area, and now physically as well, I'm bringing my whole self to you. And it's the same with our money, that I'm bringing my whole self, all that I have, all that I own, all that is mine, and it's ours.
Yep.
And so with your finances too, no hidden accounts, no hidden spending. Like when we got married, the 6 figures of debt was Jenaye's. And I had paid off a lot of mine because I had been in my career already.
Josh is the saver.
But I wasn't really even when I lived paycheck to paycheck for a long time. But when we got married, there was a pivot in my mind. And I remember driving down Century in Bismarck saying, it is not Jenaye's debt.
It's ours.
It is our debt. And I can't resent her for it. I can't pretend it's her and her problem. It is me and her and this money thing.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's bringing your whole self in, especially those 4 pillar areas. And I'm speaking to those that are married, but for anybody, to build those parts of your life.
His bonus every year, any gifts people would give for pastor appreciation, it all went to our debt. And I just remember the first year, I'm like, do whatever you want with whatever is yes, it's still our bonus, but you've worked your butt off for this, or appreciation and things no, you can spend it. And even Josh, he has a little, I call it his little kitty of cash that he'll keep. He kind of stores away, which I know of, but I'm not don't always know where it is. And then when we go on a family trip,
it's $200. Okay?
But still, it's when we go on a family trip, and he'll be like, actually, I've been setting aside a little cash for this. And it's
I've got a little extra fun.
Or it's
yes.
But I know about it. And it's at least open communication of that too.
Right.
So
I think that's another thing is shame.
Oh,
yeah.
That was, we talked about that earlier. I was going to dig into that, but shame. But the other one, the thing I love that you brought up is that you guys as a couple said, this is ours.
Yeah.
This is what we are going to work towards, and whether it's consumer debt, because that's one that we hear from couples too as well,
his credit card.
He did this, she did this. And having that.
Well, what should someone do? Let's say they are married and their spouse is like, ain't no way. And they want to tackle this, but their spouse just either keeps spending. Maybe this is a whole nother hour.
They're not on the same page.
That might be another hour. Truly that is a marriage issue more than a money issue.
Yeah.
It's a heart issue because like you're saying, Josh, you had to change your heart and say, this isn't hers and mine. And we went through that to a certain extent too. Like I knew Andrew liked to spend money. And so we had separate accounts when we were first married. We're 23. We didn't know what we were doing.
We always say you're accountable to what you know.
Yes.
And so like,
yes. And when you know
yet,
better,
it's okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
Yes. And so like I'm the nerd. I was paying all the bills, making sure everything was covered. And then he just had his fun money to go do things and stuff. Well, I started to feel a little bit of resentment there, you know, like, and not that I want to spend money. Maybe I just want the option. Yeah. Because I'm not really great at spending.
Well, like
I'm
he's not either,
Right.
but he still gets his personal money. And if he wants to save for 7 months his personal money, okay, do it.
Nerds.
Yes.
Sorry.
Or nerds. I spend it on the kids. Anyway.
Yes.
But yeah, it was just that, and it was unspoken to a certain extent, but then it was like, we had those conversations around it. And I was like, hey, I was pretty scared to approach him about that and say, I really want to be all in together because I didn't want him to resent me for taking away his fun,
Yeah.
you know?
And and that was one of those conversations. I remember even the conversation to finish paying off my truck because we had the cash sitting there and you're like,
Yep.
well, just do it. But even combining finances, it was just one of those that, and a lot of couples again, like, what are we gonna do? Like, no, we're just gonna do it,
Yeah.
And you just commit, you throw it all in the same pot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then you talk about it, But I'm not gonna act like it was just, oh yeah, no brainer, we're just perfect. No, it was a discussion.
Yeah,
It was
right.
And I think
emotional.
that's what
it was
it is.
different.
Yeah.
And so if you're listening, I want you to hear that. Not like it's already been mentioned, it's not easy. It's difficult. There's gonna be some speed bumps, and I think that's one of the other things we like to encourage people is, as you start doing a budget, as you start being more intentional, the first couple of months are going to be rough.
Yeah.
It's not going to be pretty, and that's okay. Keep doing it. Month 3 is going to look a lot better.
Yeah.
Month 5 and 6.
momentum.
Yes.
And sometimes your
Yes.
budget, you're like, oh gosh, I thought I'd spend this much and I was way over. Like, give yourself grace in that. You're trying to learn how to.
Yes.
And the whole point of a budget, and I think you said it earlier, but you are telling your money where to go. And then you're deciding it and you are in control.
Right.
And there are things you can do. It is not too far gone.
And for couples who are struggling with like kind of that going at each other, I mean, I think like Andrew said, it's a process. You need to really examine your heart and just be willing to have that honest conversation.
Right.
And have it in love and not have it be this adversarial thing. Approach one another in love, but don't be afraid to be honest.
Yeah. Right.
You know?
And it's okay to be scared.
It's okay to be
to be
scared.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yep.
And kind of tied to shame. And again, that's a whole different basket.
Yeah.
But that's okay to come to your spouse, say, I don't want to have this conversation. I'm uncomfortable because I know how big it is. I know
Yeah.
it's my fault. I know, like, let it out, and have that conversation. And
Because your
hopefully
spouse
you can,
is your safe. Like that should be
hopefully
the
you're in a safe
safest
spot. Yes,
person.
where you guys can have that loving conversation, embrace one another. And, and when you take on, 6 figures worth of debt with your
That's a lot.
spouse,
Yeah. It was a lot. That's scary.
That deepens some roots though,
Yeah, for sure.
and coming together.
Right. You got to work as a team for sure.
Yeah.
It's so good, you guys. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, seriously.
And just your
This is
wisdom.
fun.
Thanks for teaching people, mentoring them, helping them. I think it really is like setting people free, in such a powerful way.
And if us talking about this, if you're like, oh my goodness, I want all this, like Financial Peace University, FPU, you can do it online or at the church here at
Yes.
Evangel.
Yep.
It's listed under Connect Groups when we launch Connect Groups, right?
Yes.
Yes. Sometimes I'm like, am I saying this correct? Yes.
We also mentioned the $Every app. If you're looking for a good budgeting tool that you can link up to
they have a
your
free
accounts.
option of that
Yep.
app too. So there's so
take,
many resources.
Don't try to eat the whole elephant all
or
at once.
just listen to the
take
Dave Ramsey radio show because he
Yeah.
takes actual callers.
Yeah.
He sometimes be a bit rough around the edges, but
Yes.
he's kind of funny.
Yes.
I just think he's hilarious, but whatever.
Just take your best next step.
Exactly.
And
You can do it. That's it. I guess sorry to interrupt, but
you're
you
good.
can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can
Yeah.
do it. And that's what I want. I love when people finally believe that
Right?
Yeah.
for themselves because it can be big, it can be scary, it can be hard. But I promise, there's another single mom just like you that was buying our first house, went through
Amen.
FPU with us.
Yeah.
And she worked extra shifts. She was a nurse and she worked a lot of extra hours. And I just remember I thought I'd get out of here without getting emotional. I'm a softie, but I can still remember, she's buying her first house
Right.
because she got her finances in order. She worked her tail off, so it's going to take work, but you can do it. I guess that's
right. 100%.
So I love to be the cheerleader for people. Yeah, we love to watch people win.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can be hard, but it's worth it.
Right. You can have a good relationship with money.
Yes.
You can.
Yes.
That's the moral of the story.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, this is Highly Unlikely with Josh and Jenaye. And if you feel like this episode about money would help somebody, share it with them, let them hear about it, and get these resources into their hands. And thank you again
Absolutely.
to you guys.
Thank
so
you.
Fun having you.
Yeah. And we'll see you next time.